name is Ollie, I work for Spring Source and I'm a member of the Spring Data team, and as we will have a NoSQL session tomorrow, I just wanted to give you a short elevator pitch of what we're about to do there, and if you want to discuss this in more detail then just join the session tomorrow. There's NoSQL databases nowadays, and Java developers, I put this verses in there because Java developers are usually not the people that are using the latest technologies because they're afraid of new things, I don't know, but the other problem with the NoSQL space is that it's highly fractioned, so you have a variety of stores that all have different traits and different characteristics, which is why you actually choose one of them. So for example, MongoDB is a document database, its data structure is JSON documents mostly, and you also use queries for the JSON to query the database, right? So data is the query. On the other hand, there's Neo4j, as Tobias already mentioned. It's a graph database, it has nodes and relationships, so a completely different model of the data, and you use either traversals or some query languages to really access the data. So for a Java developer, it's pretty much the forest for the woods. Yeah. So different APIs, different kind of things, and okay, how do we make it easy for Java developers to actually use that stuff? So just to quote some famous dead person, there's some Spring for that, and it's a Spring Data project. It's some kind of an umbrella project, actually coined 1.5 years ago, which actually provides a dedicated module for each of the stores to support pretty much the APIs and to ease that stuff. So our initial idea was, or the idea that initially came up was, why not just use JPA because there is a persistent standard in Java anyway. But as the JPA is tightly coupled to relational concepts, you would either stick to half of the JPA not being usable because of the relational concepts, and on the other hand, the special traits of the NoSQL stores not being usable, right? So things like geospatial stuff or nodes and relationships doesn't really work with JPA. Okay. So we came up with a mission statement where the important parts are the consistency thing and the retaining store-specific stuff. So our idea was not to create an API which actually abstracts away all the special traits of the store, but rather have some kind of consistent programming model. So how does it look like? The first thing that is important there is that usually the drivers of the different stores don't support any entity mapping. So you have to work with the plain store, right? So it's the plain store API. So this is plain JPA. You already have some kind of mapping facilities there, right? But if you work with MongoDB, for example, you would work with something like a basic DB object, which is pretty much a map of a map of a map. And it's pretty low level, so you can't use really domain classes and put them in there. So what we actually do is provide some kind of a very similar annotation-based model to map your domain entities onto the store, right? For Neo4j, it's pretty much the same thing. You would create nodes and relationships between nodes on the low-level API, right? So with the Spring Data Neo4j project, you just do the very same thing as you just did with the Mongo database. I just have store-specific annotations, but they all feel the same, look the same, and sometimes they even share the same annotation, like with the constructor support. The second part of it is the Repositories API. So how do you implement actually interacting with the store? And with the JPA stuff, we actually have some kind of an interface-based approach there, so that you don't have to provide any implementation at all. So you just activate the infrastructure by saying JPA repositories, that's a Spring namespace actually, saying scan this interface, this package here, and you would just pick up the interface as extending repository and automatically derive the queries from the method name. So in this case, we just derive JPA queries from it, but we can also do by just changing it to Mongo repositories, use the very same interface to query the Mongo database, because we can just derive the appropriate Mongo query. You can even go with special traits of the store, like annotating the manually defined query, or use the geospatial features as you see here. For Neo4j, it looks exactly the same, and you also have Neo4j specific features available here. This is a cipher query, which actually, is manually defined, as you can see there. So there's quite a few stuff in the Spring Data project. Templates and repositories are the core part, and there's quite a few stuff around it. So if you want to know more about that, just join a session tomorrow.